an unconstitutional hoax.
Do you remember when big tech called themselves the free speech platform and used slogans like "Don't be evil"? Fast forward a decade, and suddenly those platforms we loved for years have changed, and the promises they made at the start no longer apply. So what happened? How did we get here? Over the last decade, these companies have quietly moved their corporate headquarters outside the US to EU tax havens. The big change? Well, big tech is now governed under UN law. In simple terms, US free speech laws no longer apply to these platforms. What started as free speech for all is now regulated speech to some. We believe you, the people, not big tech, are the best judge of what you want to watch, read, and hear. We are content creators. We understand that a creator's ability to make a living should not be infringed upon. We created Zap Media with you in mind, a free market, next-gen media platform that believes in protecting your speech rights and, equally as important, your privacy, including IP theft and data mining. By removing the threat of censorship and freeing the market, content creators have a home base to build their platforms and grow their brands. The Zap Media community are brand ambassadors, coalescing behind publishers, subscribers, and advertisers alike. This is the beginning of the next big wave in digital media. With an estimated 225 million video-on-demand users expected by 2022, Zap is poised, with your help, to revolutionize the marketplace as we know it. We look forward to partnering with you.
Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, the only show where the hosts consistently tell you, don't trust us, verify it. Tonight we've got a really good show planned for you, but before we get to that, I got to introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Boogie, how's it going, brother?
Good, but how can you say that we've got a good show play? You don't even know what I've got for you. You don't even know what's in it. It might be a terrible show.
It might be, but if I tell the audience that, they're just going to get the hell out of here right now.
True. I like to set the bar low, though. Before we go too far into the show, James, can I just do this for a moment? Just.
Oh, let me join you.
Going to enjoy some freedom there while it lasts. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. What potentially illegal vape flavor are you enjoying this evening, James? If I may ask.
Oh, black licorice. Always, I love black licorice.
Black licorice, God.
Yeah.
God. If I was vaping on black licorice, I'd be begging them to ban it. That sounds fucking awful. I'm enjoying a nice pina colada here in the true spirit of the Hawaiian show, and the Hawaiian guy sucking on a bit of black liquor in the true spirit of God knows what.
How about let's just call it Jägermeister, and that way everybody will be happy about it.
Beautiful. Jaeger bombs tonight on Trust and Verify. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. If you miss the late show when it's on at 11 p.m., then don't fret, because now we're on at 6 p.m. And if you miss the 6 p.m. show because you'd rather watch it at 11, then you can always download the podcast. Just check out tavshow.com for links, or follow on Twitter at TAVShow. James, are you feeling okay, James? Every now and then I need to ask this of my friends, and especially the hard-working ones, and more than any of those things, especially the Donald Trump voting ones, because I have a sneaking suspicion that, I suspect that you're a guy who hides his feelings rather well. Would that be a fair statement to make?
Yeah, pretty fair.
Okay. He's a tough guy. He's got a tough guy exterior, ladies and gentlemen. But unfortunately for James, the good people of Ceylon have provided me with an insight into the very troubled psyche, the very troubled nervousness and depression that befouls the good people of the United States of America. And that's exactly how we're going to kick off the show tonight on a high note.
I'm already joking.
James, this is an absolute classic, this one here. The Trump depression, and we don't mean the economy, a key symptom of autocratic regimes, James. Experts see a population-based depression taking hold in America, but it might force us towards positive change. The first thing I would like to point out is I actually agree in principle with, things like, I don't agree that depression should go up, but obviously there are more people depressed now than there used to be. And arguably we've never had it so good, right?
Right.
We've never had it. We've never lived so easy. But depression is going up, mental illness is going up, and there's probably a whole range of factors that, psychologists could speak to that indicate these things, drug addiction and whatnot. I love that Salon jumps straight to it's got to be Trump's fault because everything is Trump's fault. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Reviewing Trump's wacky, angry, and extreme August on Twitter, the New Yorker's Susan Glasser said the experience was, quote, James, exhausting, a dark journey to a nasty and contentious place. See, I love when people like yourself say, you should read Donald Trump's Twitter feed to see what's going on.
Yeah.
You often make mention, everybody should read Trump's Twitter feed. To you, it's a source of encouragement. To this young lady who works for the New Yorker, it was an exhausting, dark journey to a nasty and contentious place. But that's hardly news, according to Salon. It's a place we live in every day. We try to turn the volume down and ignore it, and that may work for a while, but it won't last. It can't. It's getting worse, and we can all see where we're headed, James. We can all see where we're headed.
Yes.
We know who Donald Trump admires, who he wants to be like. President for life, as he keeps on telling us, and the countries they rule.
I love it.
President for life. For life. They still call him President Obama, don't they? They still call him President Carter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
President W. Bush. So I guess that is at least objectively true that he will be now forever a president for life, but putting that to one side. Even as Trump insulted Americans and allies with abandon, Glasser noted, he found time to praise North Korea's Kim Jong-un, President Xi Jinping, and Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. America is nowhere near as bad as Brazil or China, much less North Korea. But our democracy is eroding significantly. Many Trump supporters may agree with that, especially in light of certain documents which may be released to certain government departments and then to certain media outlets by certain individuals in the upcoming days and perhaps weeks, James. Varieties of Democracy tracks hundreds of attributes of democracy for 202 countries, spanning more than 2 centuries. Its 2019 report found that 24 countries are now severely affected by what is established as a third wave of autocratization. Autocratization. Or I think it's autocratization, James. First time I've read that word, so please, my humblest apologies. An erosion of democratic rights that has slowly gained momentum since the 1990s. Among them are populous countries such as Brazil, India, and the United States. USA! USA! Woo! Heading up the fascist bandwagon. If Trump had his way, listen to this, demolishing all restraints on his power, things will only get much worse. With the journey Glasser took as a tour book guide of what's to come, and people are feeling it in their bones.
Jesus Christ. That must be why I woke up aching. Woke up a little achy.
I've been worrying, I've been going around lately, and at work I feel I'm depressed and stuff, and I think it's got something to do with this autocratization effect that's happening. And it's giving me this depression, it's in my bones. I can feel it in my bones. And I know that Donald Trump is to blame for this feeling in my bones. You feeling me, dog?
Way to go, Cardi B.
In America under Trump, there is a population-based depression taking hold. It is a very subtle, smouldering, pervasive, and serious condition, James, because we wouldn't want to treat this without the appropriate level of seriousness, that people in autocratic countries chronically live with. Physician and scholar Frederick Skip Burkle told me in a recent interview. Burkle has a number of academic credentials, so here comes the expert list, James. He was a founding director for, get this is a mouthful, the Center for Excellence in Disaster Management and Humanitarian Assistance at the University of Hawaii. He's one of yours.
Oh, geez.
He's one of yours. Well, Hawaii's such a small state, but thanks to guys like this and Mazie Hirono, you just can't stop fucking the rest of the country, can you? You really do punch up. Hawaii punches up on a daily basis.
Right.
And currently serves in an advisory or research capacity at the Harvard School of Public Health, Johns Hopkins University Medical Institutes, and the Woodrow Wilson Center in Washington. Well, now it all makes sense because Woodrow was kind of a prick. He was kind of a prick. It was Burkle who first described Trump as the schoolyard bully to me, as I described in July. His own first childhood encounter with a bully taught him that such people were driven by, quote, yes, I know, you now see, you can see it too, can't you? You can see it too. I've often had this suspicion that the people who seek power in government departments, in bureaucracies and whatnot, were often, they probably wet the bed late into their teens. They were probably harassed by bullies in the schoolyard. And then once they get a little bit of power in these government departments, James, I feel like they can dish out their own type of vengeance. You know what I mean?
It's all
like, I'm the bully now.
Yep.
You used to pick on me, but one day I'm going to be very powerful and you're going to wish you hadn't. Yep. I often feel that there's this simmering subtext to what these people think. When I did see young adults with sociopathy and narcissism, James, the depression among their caretaker parents was pervasive. So now he's actually saying that the people who don't like Donald Trump and feel depressed by him are his caretakers. Like you're like the parent in this relationship, trying to take care of the problem child. Listen to this. Biologically driven mental illnesses internalize their depression, mania, etc. But those with personality disorders externalize and never internalize. Now, this is key. Remember, people with personality disorders externalize and never internalize. That would be like somebody saying that everything that happens that's bad in the world is always somebody else's fault. Now, can you imagine why this might be significant when it comes to people like, say, Salon, for example, and other people who advocate for very far left-wing, oppressive, tyrannical type policies in government when they get the opportunity to? Do you think why there could be something going on here? A little bit of projection, perhaps?
A little projection.
I don't want to overdo the psychological babble, but a little bit of projection might be taking place here. As such, like the collective narcissism that gathered strength and remained stable among his followers, that's you, by the way. It's you out there in the audience.
Right.
The next step in this very predictable process is to slowly eat away at normal people who see no lessening of the way they feel.
Normal people. So it's normal.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. These people think that they're the normal ones. That's psychotic. This is why they always approach things from that point of view of saying that, like they somehow every time we make a statement, we're biased, right? They're always like, well, that's just bias. You're just biased. You're just biased. Yes, I am. I'm freely admitting it. The problem is you think you're not. That's really the problem. The problem is that you think somehow you're the centrist. No, you're not. You're far from a centrist. The center is somewhere between you and me. Trust me, I'm way closer to the center than you are.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a bias, but it is possible to, view things objectively and give an objective call if you're at least aware of your own biases.
Right.
And you can't be aware of your own biases unless you admit that you have them.
Right.
Because if you can't admit that you have them, then you can never be aware of them. And the people who try to claim that they are unbiasedly, objectively assessing things, they don't make the best case for themselves, James, when they come out and say, the reason that I'm telling you this is because everybody who likes Donald Trump is narcissistic and it's making the rest of us normal people feel depressed in our bones.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking insane.
It's not a good platform. It's not a good platform for unbiased commentary. The very predictable process is to slowly eat away at normal people who see no lessening of the way they feel from Trump's daily antics that others in power do nothing about, James. For more insight, I turn to Elizabeth Micah, whose chapter in, quote, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump, another very unbiased headline. It's a long review here. Very objective book title. Explain that tyrannies are three-legged beasts, James. There is the tyrant, his supporters, and the society as a whole. That's you. Also known as the toxic triangle. This chapter stood out for its comprehensive perspective on the entire situation America finds itself in. Quote, the tyrant shows up in a society that is already weakened by disorder, blind to it, or unable or unwilling to take corrective measures that would prevent a tyrannical takeover. Okay. Once he and his sycophantic cabal assume power, they deepen and widen the disorder, dismantling and changing the society's norms. So now we're against changing norms.
Yeah.
Institutions and laws to fully reflect their own pathology, James. Would that be the kind of pathology, say, for example, that there are 347 different varieties of gender and laws should be changed to reflect that pathology? Would that be one of those pathologies, do you think? No, of course not. Don't be silly. The pathology we're talking about is if you believe in borders, then you must be racist and xenophobic. It's that kind of pathology. That kind of pathology we're talking about here.
You could literally apply that entire paragraph to the previous administration, and it would make sense. Like, you really could. It's just like, yep, look, this is exactly what you guys did. We're going to prove that in court, by the way, just so you're aware. Like, that's where we're headed. We're going to prove that paragraph absolutely 100% applies to the previous administration.
But I love that she's saying that a tyrant tries to change society's norms. What happened to smash the patriarchy?
Right.
What happened to down with capitalism?
Right.
What happened to literally the definition of a progressive? Because if you're not changing things, right? If you're not changing stuff, then you're no longer a progressive. Guess what? The progressives are now the conservatives. We won the war.
Yep. There you go.
We now have the most progressive of publications arguing that society's norms should not be changed. So these people have no idea who they are. It's like we don't believe in changing society's norms, except for all the norms that we've changed in the last 50 years. Now we have to keep them exactly the same for the rest of humanity. Yes. For the rest of time itself, until the sun burns out. We need to make sure that these laws never change.
Exactly. It's freaking hilarious. You know, I'm sorry, a little bit off topic, just slightly. I gotta say, we literally have the strangest troll I've ever had in our chat, ever. We have a troll that is on Trump's side thinking we're against Trump somehow. Literally, they're like, it's like a reverse troll. It's like a troll that's not a troll. It's the strangest shit I've ever seen. It's Yanil Castile. I think they're very confused and very lost. Somehow they think they stumbled into a lefty scope, but really they stumbled into a righty scope, and now they think they're in the Matrix somewhere. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, you should. Well, I don't know what to do. For the first time, I don't know what to do.
I often get them in my show, The Daily Boogie, because as you know, like, it's laced with constant sarcasm. So, and I've instructed my audience to, when somebody comes in and suspects that I'm actually arguing from the opposite point of view, not to correct them.
Yeah,
and we'll just see how long.
How long they'll
see
go.
how long it takes.
I gotta say, I normally know exactly what to do with everybody. This is one that is like, what? Wait a minute. I don't understand. What the hell is happening here?
These moments are the best moments. You need to treat. If somebody new comes into the show and they're not quite sure, like, what side of the fence you're arguing from, that's mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. When I reached out to Mika, James, back to the article, she cited two concepts as particularly important for, quote, understanding our socio-political situation. Both what's driving the depression Burple speaks of and what points toward the way out, because everybody needs a trapdoor. The first one is pathocracy, James. A pathocracy. I thought, here I was, at this stage of my life in my mid-30s now, and I thought I'd pretty much read up on all the ocracies there is. I thought I knew every ocracy on God's green earth, but apparently the pathocracy slipped right past me. Maybe it's because I'm so narcissistic and I only look inwardly, and I've got depression in my bones because of who's leading the free world.
I knew I woke up achy.
It's that damn Trump depression. Mika said, which is the rule of pathological characters, specifically people with entirely absent or severely compromised conscience, who, because of their character defect, are devoted pretty much exclusively to the pursuit of power by any means possible, James. Awakening to the reality of a pathocracy, mobilizing against it and dismantling it is a process of positive disintegration. The second concept I mentioned at the start, during which individuals come to realize the importance of higher values. So now we're arguing for God.
The lefties who don't believe in God, now they're going to argue for God. Holy crap.
I think what we need to do is do away with all of this higher value nonsense and really talk to some higher values instead of these higher values, James. Start implementing them and little by little in their daily life. But there's one line here that I just have to get to because it's just the best one. These normal individual followers are like the Nazi Party members profiled in Milton Meyer's 1955 book, They Thought They Were Free. They are surely dangerous but redeemable. So you can be saved, James.
These people are freaking, oh my God.
You can be brought back. You can be brought back to the bosom of the blue, the bosom of the understanding Democrat Party, James. A minority of the toxic leader's followers, however, will share their leader's pathology. For this smaller group, their psychology is fixed on the dark end of the spectrum, the dark end of the... Come to the dark side.
Come to the dark
side. With a mix of superiority, contempt for others. Well, I'm sure that James has that, in isolation at least. Volatile insecurity, regardless of circumstances. For this group, the toxic leader's rise to power provides a perfect opportunity to grab onto his coattails and gain a share of the power and riches. We're all getting rich now.
Right.
All you had to do was vote for Donald Trump. Your taxes go down, more money comes in. No, this is exactly what the Nazis did, believe it or not.
Right.
Many of these sycophants act as cheerleaders and apologists and normalize the toxic leader's pathological behavior. In doing so, they magnify enormously the confusion and disorientation of the psychologically normal population. That's not you, that's everybody else. Many of whom suffer from Trump depression, alarm, and outrage, James. There's a line in here. I wish I could find it. I should have highlighted it, because the author then goes on to argue that she first learned about this kind of depression growing up in communist Poland. And although, yes, she says, communist Poland is very different to the United States of America, but arguably America is worse than communist Poland right now. And the reason being because in America, you're sold the idea of freedom, whereas in communist Poland, at least you knew you didn't have any.
Well,
So it's actually far worse in America.
I wonder if she's actually seen Poland lately. Have you seen the mainstream media from?
Oh, they're doing all right these days.
Oh yeah,
they're doing all right now.
If those people obviously believed in freedom at some point, because they are the most freedom-loving people maybe on the planet from any country. These guys,
absolutely.
The president of Poland, when he comes on the lefty media, they often are confused by him because, I saw a clip, I just saw this yesterday, literally, where the one of the mainstream media people asked the president, "How many refugees do you have in Poland?" And the president looked straight at the camera and said, "0." And the chick goes, "And you're proud of that?" It's like, "Yep." Like, yeah, like what do you want from us? We're not taking in these Muslim quote unquote infiltrators that are going to destroy our countries. You need to look at your country. Your country's about to be destroyed because of what you're doing. You know, I mean, like this guy is the most based human on the planet. Like, and he's the president of the country. So yeah,
they've got a few of them.
Yeah,
they've got a few of them in Poland. I've often played clips from a Polish libertarian, a free market libertarian, a guy named Janusz Korwin-Mikke, James. And he's been I've played a clip of him at the EU talking to all the socialists at the EU saying, Poland doesn't have a problem with migrants. Poland wants to welcome people who want to work, but these people you are bringing in do not want to work, and in fact, they flee Poland to go to countries with more generous welfare programs. We are importing human garbage.
Exactly.
And you just see all of these mouths drop to the floor. Oh, my God, is he allowed to say that? See, the thing is, once you get out from under the thumb that is provided by around 60 or 70 years of communist rule, James, you'll find people more than willing to actually come out and speak their minds after 6 or 7 decades of being killed for doing so, right?
Yep.
And free market capitalism is now thriving once again in Poland.
And I guarantee you that the next 3 generations of Poles will never give up their right to bear arms. I'll tell you that. They'll be burying them somewhere in the house, but they're never giving it up because they ain't never going back to communism.
Yeah. You'll know one of my co-hosts, James, just before we move on, the voice of reason, Adam J, on the Common Discourse podcast, comes from Polish heritage, born in Poland. All the family, as far back as they'll go, is Polish. And he'll tell you, like, even though, we're out from under communism now, that's left a permanent stain on the country.
Yeah.
Like he says, you can see it written in the faces of the older people, how much communism was a blight on their history. So they're not racing to go back to it anytime soon, regardless of how much Mutti Merkel would like that to be the case.
Yeah.
I want to give you a jumping off point here, James. A little bit of follow-up from your last night's program, Ladies of Liberty. Justice Department authorised prosecutors to charge Andrew McCabe. There he is, looking all very serious. Justice Department prosecutors were authorised to seek an indictment alleging former acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe lied to investigators, and on Thursday he was told one of his last bids to persuade them not to had failed, people familiar with the matter said. But with the green light to proceed and grand jury summoned back after a months-long hiatus to consider the case, the day came and went with no public charges being filed. Grand jurors were sent home and McCabe remained in limbo, waiting to see whether the investigation that began more than a year ago would end with a fight to stay out of prison. I think you'll find Kevin McCarthy, James, is he the leader in the House for the Republicans?
Yeah.
He came out and said today, around 3 hours ago, if I'm not mistaken, that indictment is imminent.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Imminent.
Yep.
He didn't leave any room, any wiggle room. He didn't leave himself an escape hatch, which is very rare for a politician to do, mind you, because more than likely they'll put caveats in and say, well, it's looking likely that there'll be an indictment. He's given himself a pat on the back. Is that the back patter?
Yeah, I can't. I'm too fat to reach it with my own hands, so I got to get a special device there.
I want to show you this. Alan Dershowitz, James. Too many politicians are being subject to criminal prosecution. Lawyer Alan Dershowitz told John Katzimatidis in a new interview that the potential criminal charges faced by former FBI Director Andrew McCabe are a result of the criminalization of political differences in America. He's an innocent man. He's a good man, Andy McCabe. But what's interesting about this is quite often is the case with these publications is the last couple of paragraphs, not the first couple,
not the first,
the last couple. No, this is where they sneak in the actual stuff that you should probably pay attention to, and it's the stuff that they know 80% of people don't read because they read the headline in the first 2 paragraphs.
That's why you and I are the only people, I think, that we automatically go to the end of the story before, and then exactly. if the end is all right, then we might start at the beginning again, but we're going to just look at where's the real meat.
Exactly. Dershowitz's remarks follow a report this week based on a source close to McCabe's legal team that indicted the former FBI chief will soon face charges for lying to investigators about his contacts with members of the news media. A Justice Department internal review previously found that McCabe lacked candor with investigators. McCabe, who was fired from the FBI last year, has argued that his ouster was a politically motivated move by the Trump administration. But again, what are those charges, James? What are those charges? Lying to investigators about his contacts with members of the news media.
Four times.
Can you think of anybody else who might have been charged with lying to investigators, like, say, the FBI?
I think it was
in the last
Manafort, Roger Stone, General Flynn, Papadopoulos, Carter Page. Yeah, I think every single charge that they tried to bring against everybody was all started and stemmed from they were less than candorous.
But so isn't it funny then that because Andrew McCabe is now facing a very similar charge that, this is going too far. It's all going a bit too far. Alan Dershowitz wasn't the only one. CNN, James, you're going to love this clip. CNN also went into that.
Oh my God.
You've seen this?
Wait, yeah. I want to set this up a little bit. The guy who's going to speak here is Jeffrey Tobin, their legal guy. Now, every time you hear the word McCabe, I want you to mentally substitute Flynn and then realize that all of the evidence for each side is 180 degrees opposite. And when you listen to this guy on CNN, it will all make sense to you. If you just substitute Flynn every time he says McCabe, it's freaking insane. Like, you're like, oh my God.
Let me just emphasize the point you started with. Andy McCabe is a CNN contributor. He is a colleague and a friend to me.
Remember, we're being completely unbiased here.
Many of us who work here, he's here recently, but I mean, people need to, factor that into what they're hearing.
Really?
This is an extremely unusual prosecution.
Now listen to that real quick. Hold on. I just want you to hear what he said again. Let's actually rewind that a little bit. You know how when you do a news clip, like Bloomberg does something, at the end of the clip, they have to say, just for transparency's sakes, Michael Bloomberg owns controlling interest in Twitter, right? They have to say things like that. Look at how a lawyer does it, because that's what you just watched. You just watched him spin the entire narrative of, oh, by the way, McCabe works here, and so everything we say is biased. Watch the lawyer spin this to where you don't even realize that's what he's saying. You're like, what? What just happened? It's just gobbledygook. All you hear is na 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 na.
Let me just emphasize the point you started with. Andy McCabe is a CNN contributor. He is a colleague and a friend to many of us who work here. He's here recently, but I mean, people need to, factor that into what they're hearing. This is an extremely unusual prosecution.
Unusual.
Andy McCabe had the right to speak to reporters.
Now, see, I've done my own little I've got my own little history on lawyer speak too. So if I could just add to James's argument there, what you'll see here is the classic misdirection, the classic straw man. Because see, Andrew McCabe's right to speak to reporters is not what he is being charged for. What he is being charged for is lying to investigators about what he said to reporters, which is two totally different things. The fact that he says it's unusual, it would be unusual to charge somebody for just talking to a reporter. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a crime to talk to somebody who's a journalist. It's not unusual when you take it against the backdrop of all of those previous names that we already mentioned who have been indicted for what? Lying to investigators.
That is beyond dispute. As deputy director of the FBI, he had the right to speak to reporters. He also has an impeccable record as one of the most honored and successful FBI agents of this generation.
Well, no, he doesn't, because he was fired, right?
Yes, he has an impeccable record. Let's see. He worked on Solyndra. He worked on Fast and Furious. He worked on what was that? All of a sudden, I just lost my mind. Enron. Let's see. What else did he help destroy? And by the way,
really?
Yeah, all those things that he worked on were all basically overturned at the end. see, what else did he have a hand in? Benghazi stuff. I mean, like, this guy has been, handpicked by who? James Comey. So anything James Comey worked on, this guy's been right there. Oh, by the way, Andrew McCabe, anybody in this audience, probably everybody is familiar with a FBI agent by the name of Robin Gritz. And McCabe not only was interfering in literally international terrorism, okay, and screwed that up, but actually, I guess you would say horrifically got Robin Gritz fired. Like, he literally made sure that he destroyed her career. So if you
can I just say the obvious? Can I just say the obvious line here, James? Well, kiss Margaret.
Yeah. So to literally say that he has this storied and honored career is just like, you couldn't even pile shit as high as Jeffrey Toobin's doing right now.
But I mean, if he has an impeccable record, impeccable means perfect. And perfect wouldn't be the way. You wouldn't top off a perfect career with being fired. So his record isn't impeccable. His record is tainted by the very fact that he was removed from his post not by the president either, by the way.
That's right.
By his own department.
That's right.
The FBI fired Andrew McCabe. The president didn't fire him. Jeff Sessions, who was AG at the time, approved the firing. And I think Rod Rosenstein recommended the firing to AG Sessions. But the firing itself came from within the FBI, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Ethics officers and legal, the lawyers for the FBI were like, holy fuck, we got to get rid of this guy now.
Yep. And so you see here, Toobin hasn't mentioned the real charge. He's just completely skipped around it. He's missed that whole big section of what he's being charged with and said it's very unusual this charge is very unusual because all he did was talk to people and he's got an impeccable record.
Shimon did a very admirable job of explaining
You did a good job, Shimon.
It's complicated.
It is complicated.
I mean, it is really difficult to understand even what the lie is here. Right. The alleged lie. The alleged lie.
It's really difficult to understand what the lie is. Oh, pardon me, I forgot myself. The alleged lie. Good job, Jeff.
You had the right to speak to the reporters, and you spoke to the reporters. Months later, describe what was in the conversation that you had every right to have.
Yes.
At a time when he's being interviewed about a different subject.
Right.
Wait,
you never have the right to lie to an inspector general. If he lied, it's a crime.
He lied 4 times.
But lying to an inspector general is very rarely prosecuted.
Unless you work for the Trump administration. It gets even better because he actually rattles off all the names of the people who have been done for the exact same crime.
Yeah.
Lying
whilst he's trying to tell you how unusual it is.
These very esoteric circumstances.
Esoteric.
Complex.
This conversation, that conversation.
It's too complicated for you.
Conversation is rare.
So rare.
You know, it looks like he's going to be indicted, but you know, good luck to the government proving
this is the issue for McCabe. McCabe says he was the deputy director of the FBI.
Oh my God, he was the deputy director.
The number 2 guy.
General Flynn was the national security advisor, much higher than the deputy director. And you guys went batshit crazy. Get him!
At the FBI at the time, and I think if he, in his mind, he could argue, if I want to talk to reporters, I as the deputy director should be able to do so.
Again, that's not in dispute here.
True, I think also for the Inspector General and just generally for the Department of Justice. And we've seen this with the Comey situation, is when you start talking about investigations, it's against regulation. It's not necessarily against the law, but it's against the guidelines of the Department of Justice to start confirming or not confirming.
So now, in the effort to, I love this, in the effort to save the reputation of their friend, they've now gone on record and said he's probably going to get indicted. He lied. And not only did he lied about the unethical thing that he did. It reminds me of a joke where a guy gets pulled over by a cop, James. And the cop walks up to the window and the guy says, "What the hell did you pull me over for? I didn't do nothing." And he goes, "Well, I'm actually pulling you over because you were driving so well I'm here to give you a safe driving citizens award. I'm going to give you $200. And the guy sitting next to him says, that's great because now you can pay for those driving lessons that you never got. And the guy behind him says, don't listen to him, officer. He's drunk. He doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. The other guy in the back seat says, see, I told you stealing this car was going to get us in the shit.
Confirming investigations that are ongoing.
Go ahead.
And let that be the lesson. When the cops pull you over, keep your fucking mouth shut.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we might move on from this because I've got something even better. When it comes to keeping your mouth shut, James, Joe Biden, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Joe Biden's been on the campaign trail. He's been campaigning heavily. And people often talk, I love how he's doing the top button open look now, which really goes a long way to dispelling those myths and rumors about his unwanted advances towards women. He's looking like John Travolta.
No. He's trying to look like Don Johnson retired, you know, the fucking Miami Vice.
Johnson. Fantastic. If he could just get a mo, we could start calling him Biden PI. So, creepy Joe Biden. Now, people often talk about Joe Biden's age, and they say, well, he's not much older than Donald Trump, right? But how would you stereotypically pigeonhole somebody as old, James? My suggestion would be one of the things that is stereotypically an old guy thing to do is to ramble on with stories of yesteryear that have no context in the current conversation whatsoever. And generally these take place at, say the drive-through window at KFC or the cashier at Walmart, where you start going into an engaging story about what happened 35 years ago, about the way things used to be. But Joe Biden saves these stories for the campaign trail. We're going to have a look at creepy Joe Biden.
Someone in the chat said he needs a gold chain.
Oh, yes. Bit of bling.
Bit of
Yeah.
A lot. And I learned that it makes a difference. This was the diving board area, and I was one of the guards, and they weren't allowed to. There was a 3-meter board.
Back in my day, this was a swimming pool, and I think you'll find over there we had a diving board, and I was one of the guards on patrol that day, and there was a 3-meter board, and the 3-meter boards were very rare back in my time, you see, because most people used to jump off the 10-meter board. You were labeled somewhat of a faggot if you jumped off the 3-meter board. Of course, can't say those words nowadays. Nowadays you can't even sniff a strange woman's hair without somebody getting a hair out of place, so to speak. But of course, back in my day, that's where the diving board was, and I was a lifeguard here at the 3-meter diving board.
If you fell off sideways, you landed on the darn cement over there. And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
And he has never looked older than at this moment. Now he's apparently this gangster's name was Corn Cob. James.
Corn Cob.
Corn Cob. He's gonna talk about his run-in. And then there was a very well-known bad hombre back in my time who used to hang around the 3-meter diving board, a young man by the name of Corn Cob. And, everybody was rather afraid of Corn Cob, and I confronted him just behind the 3-meter diving board there because, of course, if you didn't go off the diving board correctly, you would land on the concrete and give yourself a rather nasty injury.
There. And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Corn Pop.
And he ran a bunch of bad boys. I did. And back in those days, the shy things had changed.
He even said back in
those days. Fucking great.
Well, back in those days, nobody argued with Corn Pop, especially not near the 3-meter diving board, because of course I was a lifeguard here at the time, and if you didn't jump off the diving board correctly, you would often find yourself meeting the concrete at a tremendous velocity. Back in those days, James.
One of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear bacon.
Pomade. bringing out every old guy fucking stereotype comment under the sun to this story.
Christ,
you know, the best thing about my campaign is that I really connect with the young people. Back in my day, everybody was using pomade to impress the ladies, James.
Cap. And so he was up on the board.
I could just see the looks on the kids' faces standing around going, yo, what the fuck is pomade? Yo, is that like a drink or something?
Listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off.
Yo. So I said to this corn pop individual, if you don't remove yourself from the board immediately, then you're going to be engaged in a war of fisticuffs, young man. You see, I had the pomade through my hair, which was most attractive and very popular at the time back in my day.
Well, he came off, and he said, I'll meet you outside. My car, these were all public housing behind it. My car.
Back in my day, there was all public housing behind it.
There was a gate out here. I parked my car outside the gate. And he said, I'll be waiting for you. He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke.
This is Joe Biden versus the Razor Gang.
I'm sorry. This guy is not a tough guy. This is not a tough guy. There's no fucking way he's standing up to 3 guys with straight razors. Straight razors.
And he's on a campaign trail. This is It's like Christmas with Grandpa Joe.
Dude,
Joe's telling you about like the good old days. You know what I mean?
I gotta tell you, they love your imitation of him. That Angela said you sound like Jimmy Stewart from It's a Wonderful Life, and I gotta throw this one in here because we had a great comment that Joe Biden looks like it's not unusual to be loved by everyone. He's gonna jump out, the ladies' panties are gonna come flying up. Tom Jones, everybody.
Carol in the chat. Joe Biden versus Grease Lightning.
There's a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the polls. He was the
and he was the only white individual in this whole area, and he made all the pools back in those days.
Mechanic. And I said, what am I going to do? He said, come down here in the basement where where all the pool filter is.
Oh, he's doing really well, isn't he? Joe is just doing really well. He's flying. Ladies and gentlemen, the top front runner for the Democrat nomination. This guy.
You know, the chain, there used to be a chain that went across the deep end.
What the?
Does this guy cannot the chain? You fold up.
He can't even tell a fucking story. He can't even tell a story.
And you walk to the car and say, "You may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head."
I don't know. I thought we hated when people like glorify violence and shit. Like, I thought this is what we didn't want. And he's like, yeah, now I'll go out there and I'll wrap that chain around your head, boy. You may cut me, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.
The little girl behind him isn't even buying this shit. Look at her face. She's like, what the fuck is Grandpa talking about?
I said, you kidding me?
Man, you white old people are crazy. Telling some stories and shit.
He said, no, if you don't come back. And he was right. So I walked out with the chain. And I walked up to my car. And they had, those days, used to remember the straight razor, you'd bang them on the curb, get them.
It is Grease Lightning. The straight races. The straight races, James.
Jesus Christ.
You know, back in my day, you used to take the chain out the front, and of course, back in those days, we used to engage in the straight races, which was where you would get two hotted up vehicles. We often referred to them as hot rods back in my day. And you would get the two of these hotted up vehicles, and you would race from one end of the pier to the other. Of course, back in those days, if the car got up to a whopping 55 to 60 miles an hour, well, the pomade nearly flew out of your hair.
Rusty, put him in the rain barrel, get him rusty. And
So
I
you
looked at
deliberately
him,
got him
but I was
rusty now.
smart. Then I said, first of all, I said, When I tell you get off the board, you get off the board, and I'll kick you out again. But I shouldn't have called you, Esther Williams. I apologize for that. I apologize.
I'm a tough guy. I'm sorry.
So this entire
I'm sorry
story,
for calling you that name.
This entire story was fabricated so that Joe could say he apologized way back in the 20s for calling a black guy Esther Williams. This is what is the great takeaway here is I'm not a racist.
That is one of the best roundabout stories I've ever heard to convince people that you're not a racist. You know, back in my day, Negroes like Corn Pop were kept under much stricter sanctions. He wasn't even allowed in the swimming pool, and that's the way we liked it. Back in my day with the pomade in my hair. Speaking of the debate, James, I've got to show you a couple of clips because I feel like we need to get into this because the next president of the United States could be part of this field, James. And, you know, in that little story there, Joe Biden spoke to, you know, his leadership qualities, James. He spoke of his toughness and, most of all, his resiliency. And that was a key theme of the Democratic debates the other day, his resiliency. Here is a little bit of Kamala Harris speaking about why she's so resilient and primed for the top job.
You know, every office I've run for, whether it be district attorney or attorney general, I was told each time it can't be done. They said, nobody like you has done it before.
Oh, nobody like you. Here we go.
Nobody is ready for you.
Nobody like you has done it. But it's how they said it. It was like, baby, nobody like you has done that before.
I ran for DA. I won and became the first black woman elected DA in a state of 40 million people in San Francisco. When I ran for Attorney General of California, I was elected because I didn't listen.
Random
and I was the only woman black elected Attorney General in the state, in the country.
The only black elected
and each time
Attorney
people
General
would
in the
say,
country.
it's not your time, it's not your turn, it's going to be too difficult, they're not ready for you.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen, and a part of it probably comes from the fact that I was raised by a mother who said many things that were life lessons for me, including...
Oh, no. Was she from India or from Jamaica?
Dad's from Jamaica, and she's from India, I think. So I think her mom was Indian. Not the good Indian.
Not the good Indian.
Sorry, I just had to throw that out there because of Pocahontas.
You mean this India?
Yeah.
You are talking about this India, are you not? Hello, good sir. Which India is the good India that you are referring to?
Don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are.
Now, see, that line is key for me. Don't let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are, which is why the Kamala Harris campaign came out and said anybody who says that Kamala Harris comes from a heritage that is not African-American is telling a lie. Yeah. Remember? Mm-hmm. Sure. One parent might come from what James has so eloquently dubbed as bad India, and the other one might come from the Bahamas. But hey, she's an African American woman, and I won't hear a word about it. I won't hear another word about it. James, ABC put this little collage together of this is what they deem to be the moments that mattered in the debate. These are the real key takeaways. So these are always good because this is what ABC wants you to think about. These are the moments that they think you need to put on the shelf as the most of utmost importance, okay?
Now, I may not be the loudest person up here, but I think we've already got that in the White House. Houston, we have a problem.
You
see how like off the cuff and witty that was?
Yeah, did you see how she told the same joke like 8 times in every single speech? You know, I called up the president. Yeah, and James, I told him.
James, she's only saying the same joke in every single speech because it kills. Oh, yeah. Because it's just so good. Such a good joke. But that's one moment that mattered.
My campaign will now give a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month for an entire year to 10 American families.
Okay, so we got Houston, we have a problem, and free money. We're off to a flying start here on the moments that mattered.
Someone watching this at home right now. It's original, I'll give you that.
So President Trump, you've spent the last 2.5 years full-time trying to sow hate and division among us. And I plan on focusing on our common issues, our common hopes and desires, and in that way unifying our country, winning this election, and turning the page for America. And now, President Trump, you can go back to watching Fox News.
Oh, man. Man, mic drop. Boom. She like totally owned him there, you know. Yep. She like totally owned his ass. Did you see how that matters? You see how that little line there matters so much, James? Because you know why? Because he like watches heaps of Fox News and stuff. You know, the Fox News that he watches all the time. You see how she owned him there on the Fox News thing. You know, back in my day, we didn't even have Fox News. You know, myself and my friends, we used to rally around this chap named Corn Pop, who I unfortunately made racial epithet to. Back in the days when I was guarding the 3-meter diving board, because back in those days, you would never jump in the pool because then you would ruin perfectly good pomade.
I wrote the damn bill, if I may say so.
And while Bernie wrote the bill, I read the bill.
Ooh.
And on page 8, of the bill, it says that we will no longer have private insurance as we know it.
They're going to give back that money to the employee?
Matter of fact, they will.
Well, let me tell you something. For a socialist, you got a lot more confidence in corporate America than I do.
Isn't that a great picture? The two front runners for the job, James. Have a look at that. The stories they could tell. whether it's guarding diving boards with pomade in your hair, or you know, holidaying to the USSR as a young communist, James. The stories that these two elderly gentlemen could tell. I want to skip ahead here to one of my favorites, Essie Cupp, Cuppy Wupp. In one of her breakdowns of the Democratic debate, James, she's actually, for once, she's actually speaking a little bit of common sense on this topic. She's going to point out all of the things that Democrats shouldn't be doing.
The 2020 Democratic candidates are all over the country today trying to reinforce, or in some cases recover from, their debate performances. Elizabeth Warren, who had a pretty decent night, is in Springfield, Massachusetts today, where she had this to say.
Democrats have a job to do in 2020. Beat Donald Trump.
That is pretty much every election, though, to be fair. It's not a great level of insight there on that one from Liz.
Good, if odd reminder to the Democrats running for president that the goal of this poll thing is to beat Trump. But he didn't come up a whole lot at the debate. According to 538, Trump was mentioned by the candidates a total of 35 times during Thursday's debate. That's down from 61 and 72 times on the second debates.
They're not mentioning Trump enough, James. Not enough Trump references.
I just think it's hilarious that 38 times you're mentioning your opponent is down. Like that's supposed to be seen as a low number. I'm sorry.
I'm going to skip ahead here. This is fantastic from SE Cup.
If you're here to beat Trump, then why are you trying to injure your potential nominee with personal, petty attacks? If you're here to beat Donald Trump, then why are you grandstanding on radical, unpopular policies that most Americans can't support and have no chance of becoming reality?
Now, what's interesting here is she's going to go through and play all the little clips of the Democrats proposing far left-wing radical policies that most people don't support, and in asking why. Now, what's interesting here is, ladies and gentlemen, you need to ask yourself, is she angry because they're lying and proposing far left-wing policies, or is she angry that they're actually telling the truth about what they want to do?
That's the trick.
Because
right
don't tell the truth, you'll never get elected.
That's right.
You're supposed to lie. Okay?
That's the greatest gift Donald Trump has given us right there, is expose the left by letting them tell the truth. Like, I saw a tweet, I think yesterday or today, where it said, Democrats are mad at Beto because they're concerned that he's tanked their opportunity to get gun control legislation by telling everybody they're coming to take his guns. Like, you think?
It gets better. There's a great clip in this clip of that very same thing, but it's even better than you imagined. Check it out.
Just a few things that might feel good in a primary, but also play right into Trump's hands in a general. One, piling up on your well-liked, most electable, and best polling candidate.
Back in my day.
They do not have to buy in.
You just said that. You just said that 2 minutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. Are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago?
Forgetting what he said 2 minutes ago, he can recall a story that occurred 68 years ago.
Now,
he even remembers where the diving board was.
This is something I haven't seen talked about. If you back that clip up, I think that you can tell that it's Julian Castro that exploded Joe's eye. Watch his eye, remember? Watch it. This is where the eye explodes.
His eye explodes right.
You just said that
there.
2 minminutes ago. You just said 2 minutes ago that they would have to buy in. Are you forgetting what you said 2 minutes ago? Are you forgetting already what you said just 2 minutes ago?
There's a lot of people who are concerned about Joe Biden's ability to carry the ball all the way across the end line without fumbling. There are definitely moments where you listen to Joe Biden and you just wonder.
Okay, another bad idea, cutting a GOP ad while your party is trying to pass meaningful gun legislation.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
Okay, also bad, insisting people don't like something that poll after poll find they actually do.
I've actually never met anybody who likes their health insurance company.
Anybody that likes the health insurance company. Honey, can you get me a beer? I'm so normal. I'm such a normal. Remember when she was riding on the bus? Remember that? She took a ride on the bus. She didn't meet one person that actually liked their health insurance, James. Not one.
Also throwing kooky, downright disturbing ideas out there for the hell of it.
Oh, yeah.
We bring social workers into homes and parents to help them deal with how to raise their children.
What?
None of this is helpful. Don't just.
See, look,
we're gonna.
She actually agrees with it.
We're gonna send the feds. We're gonna send the feds to take your AR-15, and then while the AR-15 is going out, we're gonna send a social worker in to teach you how to raise your damn kids for a change as well.
Yeah, tell you what they want, because don't forget, the state now runs and owns your children. Just make that. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. That is the truth, and that is why. I mean, as sad as this is to say, we have got to get rid of CPS, or at least completely, fundamentally overhaul the CPS system, because CPS is being abused across this whole country to they just make you not even the parent. You're literally just the wage earner to feed them now. You're the means for the government to feed these kids. That's it. You give them clothes, you give them food, we'll raise the kids. They're teaching your kids everything that they want at school, and if you talk back, they're using communist tactics. Hey, kids, did your parents tell you that it wasn't okay to do that? And then sending CPS to your house and taking the kids. Like, this is communism 101 right here.
Yeah, I forget who said it, but it was somebody during the Obama years that said Americans need to understand that their children don't belong to them. Yep. They belong to the community. Right? Yep. You don't own your kids. The community does.
Take my word for it. Here's Democrat Senator Chris Coons on CNN Friday talking about Beto O'Rourke's.
This is fantastic. Listen very carefully to what this guy says. Okay, listen. These people think in spin. They think in propaganda, right?
Big gun grab line.
I frankly think that clip will be played for years at Second Amendment rallies with organizations that try to scare people by saying Democrats are coming for your guns.
You admitted it!
People.
You guys are literally saying. In fact, another favorite clip that will be joined into the Beto clip is Eric Swalwell telling us they're going to nuke us. We'll nuke ya!
Don't you just love it, though? It's gonna be played at those events where they try to scare people into thinking that Democrats are trying to take their guns when you have Beto O'Rourke up there saying, hell yes, we're taking your guns.
And,
hell
even
yes.
better, not just saying it, fundraising with a T-shirt so that you can wear proudly, hell yes, we're taking your guns. Yes, he's stirring it up.
No, don't you see, James? That's all just perception. They're just trying to make you think.
That's what's
happening. He's tricking those NRA guys, those Second Amendment rights advocates, James. They're tricking you into thinking that Beto O'Rourke wants to take your guns. Don't listen to what Beto O'Rourke actually says. Okay? This is fun. Based on that comment that Joe Biden made that he wants to send social workers into people's houses to teach them how to raise their damn kids, quote unquote, the spin off the back of that on MSNBC was, minority families have the biggest trouble with broken homes right now, so that must mean that Joe Biden's a racist.
We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their.
It just gets better and better. Like, I know that we anticipated a lot of fun during this part of the election cycle, but even me in my wildest dreams didn't think that we'd be regaled with stories about guarding the diving board and having corn pop try to cut you. And, people accusing you of racism because you want them to raise their kids better. It just gets better and better.
Children. It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night.
The record player.
Hey, Joe, only drugged out DJs still even have record players. I mean, pretty much that's about it. Unless you bought one for like the retro, like, hey, I still got some vinyl laying around. But even the people with the vinyl laying around don't play the vinyl too much because they don't want to scratch the last remaining vinyl they've got. I mean, come on, Joe.
You know, Judge, back in my day, my parents never had any issues raising their children. In fact, father would sit us in front of the picture wireless for hours on end, and we'd listen to our favorite. and at night we'd settle down whilst listening to some good old Herb Albert on the record player, James.
Little Lawrence Welk.
Little Tijuana brass at night time.
The phone. Make sure the kids hear words. A kid coming from a very poor school, or a very poor background, will hear 4 million words fewer spoken by the time they get there.
I noticed your tweets. You went on a tweet storm about that comment, that answer that Joe Biden gave. And this is what you wrote. Joe Biden's answer on how to address the legacy of slavery was appalling and disqualifying, you wrote. It ended in a sermon implying.
Wait. The legacy of slavery?
These people.
I thought he was talking about education and schools, and I didn't know Ebonics was spoken in the time of slavery, James. Were you aware of that?
No.
Did they have gangster rap back then? I wasn't sure. Actually, funnily enough, if this guy's interested enough to know, slavery actually gave birth to blues, which then gave birth to rock and roll, which was then picked up very heavily by them white folks. So you'll be pleased to know
that black parents don't know how to raise their own children, and said this can't go on.
I think on Thursday night, without intending to, Joe Biden threw himself a retirement party.
Oh, really?
There have always been, and this is really important to understand, two manifestations of racism in American life. Okay. There's racism with a hood, which is very easy to see.
Right.
And there's racism with a smile. There's the racism of firebombing churches, which is very obvious.
Wait, that's 3 now.
And then there's the racism of, can I touch your hair?
That's 4.
That's 4.
There's the racism that is flagrant and the racism
5.
that is insidious.
6.
And it is very clear, and everybody knows this, that Joe Biden is not out of that tradition of the evil tradition of racism of the hood, and he's not a white supremacist. But Joe Biden has revealed himself to be deeply steeped in, anchored in, and unwilling to cut ties to that second, subtler tradition of racism in American life. And it is Thanksgiving Uncle racism, right?
It's what
Thanksgiving Uncle racism. What? What is that, Archie Bunker? What the fuck is he talking about?
Ah, yeah. Don't you just love it? They're doing this to their own frontrunner. They're doing this to themselves.
I love it.
Like, I don't know. Is that the main lesson here? because the racism stuff, if it just keeps bouncing off your target, do you just move to a softer target? Is that what we're witnessing here?
I think we're witnessing exactly what we said we were going to witness. That you think that all the people on the left, all the people on the left think that right now the censorship is completely focused against those bad conservatives. But guess what? You're next. All you have to it's literally the Neiman Muller poem. You know, that first they came for the trade unionists, then they came for me, and there was no one there to speak for me. You're watching it happen. And they're using
and then they came for my uncle at Thanksgiving.
Exactly. I wouldn't normally do this, but I got to do it again. I just feel like I have to do this and take over the show, and because Boogie showed you the actual clips, and this will show you now the absolute genius behind the ultimate highlight clip of the Democrat election or the Democrat debate. So I really think that we need to play this for our audience here. And give me 1 second, cue this up. Click that little button right there, and this will tell you how freaking hilarious and genius this work is.
Hey y'all, we're live at the Democratic Debate. All right, let's do this. Yeah, let's do it. Oh, I'm so pumped up right now. Can y'all donate $1? Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to let everybody know I just made a payment to my college tuition, y'all. Good for you. Yeah, I'm super proud of myself. I'm a big girl now. You know, if you vote for me, your college tuition will be free. Oh, well, I'm gonna totally vote for you then. I'm giving out free college too. I'm giving out free college too. Ooh, I'm gonna vote for you guys too. You want $1,000, huh? I'll give you $1,000 right now, huh? You want $1,000? Vote for me. You're gonna give me $1,000? Yeah, I'll vote for you too. Since you're getting all this money, can you donate $1 to me so I could build another office? Sure. $1? That's 4 nickels, right? Hey, bro, if you vote for me, I'll totally take care of your college and I'll buy back your guns. OMG, I'm just gonna vote for all of you. What the fuck is going on over here? Squad, do you have any questions? I have some questions. Yeah! I don't even care.
There's gonna be no life after Donald Trump.
Okay, I'm in charge, so I'll be asking the questions, okay? Look, I don't want to be the president for half of America. I want to be the president for all of America. Okay, so again, I'm in charge.
Look, bro, we gotta see clearly, and we gotta have to speak honestly, and we gotta have to act decisively.
Excuse me, I'm in charge.
Listen, the only thing that's gonna work is if I give everybody $1,000, okay? You guys need $1,000? Who needs $1,000? Come on, guys, this is why everybody's laughing at us.
Look, y'all, without racism, I'm never gonna get elected.
Dude, I'm totally gonna take your guns back, okay? And if you don't give me your guns, I'm gonna come to your door, and I'll put my finger in your face, I'm gonna be like, give me your gosh darn guns!
America isn't important! What's important is that we beat Donald Trump! I was bused to school!
Me and Hillary are BFFs! Please, everybody, donate $1 to me! You want $1, huh? You want $1, huh? I'll give you $1,000, okay?
I don't have any idea what I'm doing! Okay, that is enough. I like the sound of that.
Everything's free!
America needs racism! What's up, Willie?
Give me your guns!
Guns!
What's up, Willie? Seriously, okay? Not half of America, all of America! Donald Trump is no good.
Guys, I am in charge!
I know a lot of doctors. I need a stool. I can't see over the podium.
Let me go! Trump remind me of that dude in The Wizard of Oz! Kamala, what are you gonna do about that mentally retarded president? Well said! Well said! America needs to speak Spanish only! Do you leave your record player on at night?
After my beer, I always leave the record player on! If you vote for me, I'll give you $12,000. Joe Biden, I would represent Obama better than you.
Nuh-uh!
Yes, huh?
Nuh-uh!
Yes, huh?
Nuh-uh!
I'm giving away raffle tickets. Everybody's a winner.
Oh, Aunt B!
I'm losing my voice! Hell yes, you're gonna be taking away your AR-15s and your AK-47s. No more, okay? No more guns. Give me your gosh damn guns. Yes, huh?
Nuh-uh!
Yes, huh?
Nuh-uh!
Viva la Mexico! Me on the beto!
Please, guys, please donate $1 to me. I need to build more offices.
Data, data, data.
Excuse me. You have exceeded your time. I am the boss. Excuse me.
This is gonna be too easy.
There you have it. Now you see
Well done.
how accurate that comedic genius was at putting together. You didn't have to watch the real debate clips. You literally could have just watched that and you got the whole flavor. It was perfect.
Close enough.
Close
It was
enough.
close enough. James, I want to bring up this guy. I don't know who saw this during the week on one of my favorite shows, Morning Joe, with Morning Joe, Where's My Intern Scarborough? Bill Maher, who gets a fair bit of criticism these days from people on the right side of the ledger, but I'm somebody who sort of remembers Bill Maher from, 20 years ago. Bill Maher, the guy who rails against political correctness, who loves freedom of speech, and who remember is very openly critical of religious ideologies, including, I think he's the only lefty on TV who will actually criticize Islam, believe it or not. So I think just for that, he deserves a tip of the hat. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything the guy says, but this is interesting because he starts going hard against the far left here, and the role that the far left has in dragging the Democrats into the realm of unelectability. Have a look at this.
I sat through the last debate screaming at the television set as one Democratic candidate after another suggested that Barack Obama was too conservative on health care and immigration. How maddening is that?
Oh, yeah. Too conservative. Remember, Joe is the former Republican here, apparently. Joe's the Republican, and Bill Maher's the lefty. But anyway, putting that to one side.
To you that they're having this race to the far left.
It's not good. It's kind of a cancer on progressivism. I've been saying this for years, that first of all, you have to stand up to Twitter. Twitter isn't us. Twitter isn't the rank and file Democrat. It's not even most liberals. But they don't do it. This race is begging for someone to do a kind of a Sister Soldier moment with that far left. If you run on taking away people's health care and taxing them too much and taking away all their guns, and trans women get abortion rights. I think that came up in the first debate. I don't think you're going to win this election.
Bravo. Bravo to Bill Maher, sending some shockwaves throughout the Democratic community, James. But I think the most fun thing for me is when you explain the truth to somebody like Bill Maher, and here's the truth. It's all about perception, right? It's all about relativity. The scary thing for Bill Maher is when he wakes up and realizes that he is a liberal who is pro-free speech and has been in trouble for speaking out against Islam, and doesn't think that the Democrat Party should be taking people's health care and taking people's guns away, right? Now, and he says that this is the fault of the far left fringe. The far left fringe views people who believe in free speech, speak out against Islam, and are against people taking people's guns away as the fringe, as the extremist. So Bill Maher has now become the extremist fringe of the Democrat Party, according to the extremist fringe. Do you see how this works?
Yep.
If you believe in free speech and you're in the Democrat Party, you are now the outsider. You are now the lunatic fringe of the Democrat Party. You're not supposed to believe in free speech. You're supposed to believe in censorship, because we believe in deplatforming people. What? You don't believe that the government should come and take everybody's guns away? Oh my God, look at this maniac, right? That's the new Democratic Party. That's the new liberal movement. Bill Maher's now on the fringe and he doesn't even realize it. He's been pushed out. He's been pushed out.
I think it's hilarious that they don't understand their own meme that they're doing, right? Is that they told us that it was absolutely positively impossible for the government to go door to door and find 11 million illegal aliens. Yeah, that's right. The lowest number out there. They told us it was absolutely impossible for the government to go door to door and find 11 million illegal aliens. But they're going to find 404 million guns. What? They don't even get it. What? How are you going to do that?
Well, it's just interesting because those votes have got to go somewhere. Those votes have got to go somewhere. And, over the last few episodes of this show, James, I've been tossing up the idea that the Rust Belt seats aren't as safe as we assume them to be. But I'm going to change tack a little bit here because more information has come to light and a few more little nuggets are starting to surface. And when you see people like SE Cup on CNN saying, please stop pushing these radical agendas, you're making it very difficult for us to remove Donald Trump, which it should be like a brain blast to everybody watching. When you see Bill Maher coming out and criticizing the leftist fringe in his party because now he's the leftist fringe because he believes in shit like free speech and not taking people's guns away, believe it or not, right? That starts to change things. That starts to change my perceptions a little bit. Have a look at this. I've got a couple of articles back to back and then we'll do the hammering. More united versus a House divided. GOP goes all in on Trump while Democrats clash over ideology and tactics. This is from the Washington Post, James. The Republican lawmakers gathered in Baltimore erupted in cheers and laughter Thursday as President Trump warned of the dangers of energy-saving light bulbs and falsely claimed that televisions turn off when wind turbines stop spinning. Falsely claimed. He falsely claimed that televisions turn off when there's no electricity. You know, if we all just listened to more Record Player, I'm sure we could get around this, don't you think?
Because they used to,
Mr. President,
put a crank. You remember the old crank phonographs?
Yes.
We'll just have to get that for our TVs now. We go a kid
and the car.
That'll be. You remember when you were a kid? How you used to be the remote control before remote controls were invented. Now the kid's job will be to crank the television. Kids, get up there! I need you to crank the television.
Mr. President, we are with you the entire way, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said as Trump ended his speech at the House GOP retreat. About 1,500 miles away in Houston, former Vice President Joe Biden faced accusations of having a faulty memory during an intense Democratic presidential debate that exposed deep ideological divisions and included a few personal swipes. At one point, Amy Klobuchar urged her fellow Democrats to stop their bickering, warning that a House divided cannot stand. Thursday night brought into sharp relief the way America's two major political parties have been reshaped by Trump. So now he's even reshaping the Democratic Party, believe it or not. He literally is responsible for everything that happens in the world at all times, this guy. He's amazing. After an unexpected 2016 loss, Democrats have struggled whether to bolster or restrain the party's leftward shift. Republicans, meanwhile, have completely ceded the party's orthodoxy to a president whose views on trade, entitlements, and political decorum bear little resemblance to traditional conservatism. Well, we knew that, though, didn't we? We knew he wasn't a traditional conservative. We already knew this stuff. Right. We already knew this stuff. I think the traditional conservatives backed Trump in because they said he's not a traditional conservative, but at least he's going to stand up to these fucking assholes over here. You know, at least he's not going to let them run over the top of us. He's going to fight back a little bit. And maybe that was good enough after 8 years of Barack Obama. Who's to say? Both approaches carry major risks ahead of next year's presidential election. Democrats are desperate to unseat an unpopular president, but divided about how to do it without alienating chunks of their base. We don't believe in free speech. We need to take away your health care. We should raise taxes on all of the middle classes. There shouldn't even be a wall. There should be no immigration. Everybody should just be allowed freely to come and go. Transgender women should be allowed to get abortions, James.
Yeah. That's a big one right there. That is absolutely a big one. That's the best. Yeah, that's like a promise with no payoff. That's perfect. But you know, if you really think about what the Democrats are actually proposing live on stage, you can watch it. They will actually solve immigration. Their plan will solve immigration because they will make America so fucking poor that people will be leaving America to go to Mexico. Like that's literally their plan. They're going to change the dynamic completely.
And if that doesn't work, James, they'll just make it not a crime anymore.
No.
So illegal immigration? No, we just have immigration. Illegal or illegal? It's all legal now. So.
You can parachute out of the sky from any country you want, and you're an American the second you touch land.
Good news, America. After 1 year of a Democrat in office, we've had 0 illegal border crossings.
That's right.
Because it doesn't exist anymore. This is good. Slow growth. This is the Wall Street Journal, James. Slow growth hasn't hurt Trump in key Midwest counties. Look at that slow growth. Not recession. It's growth, but it's just not really fast.
Yeah.
When Donald Trump broke the hold of Democrats in Pennsylvania and parts of the industrial Midwest in 2016, Credit went to many blue-collar, manufacturing-oriented counties that backed him by lopsided margins, drawn in part by his promise of economic renewal. 100% spot on. More than 2 years into Mr. Trump's presidency, employment growth and other measures of economic robustness in these politically important counties have lagged behind the national trend, a Wall Street Journal analysis shows. That's probably because they're coming from so far back, though, you see. When people have certain kinds of qualifications and certain kinds of education and certain kinds of training, it's very difficult to transition them into other jobs when those other jobs aren't present. So you have to start from right back here instead of up here, right?
Are you saying learn to code?
Learn to code. I would never say that.
Listen,
and yet,
go ahead. I'll hit my point afterwards.
Cool. And yet, Mr. Trump's approval rating in the blue-collar counties has risen, James, since he took office, polling shows. Together, the data suggests that even growth below the national rate could be enough to satisfy many voters that Mr. Trump has fulfilled his promise. So even though they're putting the negative spin on it, even though they're trying to hammer home the negative point, he's getting more popular, not less, more popular. There hasn't been a big uptick in the economy, says Anthony Sewell, a Pennsylvania official with the Laborers International Union of North America. It's not much different than it was 5 years ago. The political impact, Trump supporters are still Trump supporters. The Journal used data from the Economic Innovation Group, a bipartisan public policy research organization, to look at the economy in 77 blue-collar and manufacturing-reliant counties across the Midwest and Northeast. So it's not a small sample size. It's a big chunk of the house right there. These counties, as a group, titled only slightly toward the GOP in 2012, but then swung heavily behind Mr. Trump in 2016, backing him by a margin of 13 percentage points. Mr. Trump's big vote totals in some of these counties were crucial to his victories in previously Democratic Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Macomb County, outside Detroit, gave Mr. Trump a winning margin of 48,000 votes, 4 times the number he needed to carry Michigan. Mr. Trump won Westmoreland County outside Pittsburgh by 57,000 votes, more than his winning margin in Pennsylvania statewide. Mr. Trump visited many of these counties as a candidate, promising an economic rebound. And one more point just down here. Job growth in these counties was 1% in June from a year earlier, a touch below the national average of 1.1. So it's not as fast as everyone else. It's 0.1% behind the national trend, James.
Listen,
still, I brought it.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish it up,
Okay.
and then when I'll jump in.
All right. Still, a broader economic slowdown and strains in manufacturing associated with U.S. trade confrontations threaten to undermine the more recent gains, given the reliance on manufacturing jobs in these counties. That's what we were just talking about. Reviewing other measures of economic dynamism, the analysis found that population growth in the 77 blue-collar counties has been stagnant, and that large numbers of working-age people have left, suggesting that the average age is rising. The total population rose by 0.1%. The data show below the annual growth of 0.6%. The number of business establishments grew by 0.6%, a faster pace than in the prior 4 years, but below the national rate of 1.8%. James, would I be wrong to say that growth in jobs is going to be slower now because the unemployment rate is so low?
Yes, that is partially accurate, absolutely. But here's the big caveat about this whole article of why are Trump supporters still Trump supporters? Because we're not fucking stupid. Okay, let me give you an example. I live in this liberal bastion of Hawaii, just like many of these people live in their liberal bastions of Michigan. And we can see by looking at nowhere else but the biggest state in the union, California, how it is local politicians completely fucking the population out of the ability to participate in the Trump economy at the rate of the national average. That you can look right at the gas prices. While everybody else's gas prices went down, Gavin Newsom signed into law a tax raise on gas to where your gas prices are higher while everybody else in the countries are lower. People in Pennsylvania can read that. They see what's going on. People in Michigan can see that. They see what's going on. For example, here in Hawaii, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the country. It's 2.7%. So already we're under the highest restrictions, and we have the largest spread between what our cost of living is and what our wages are. And this is the example for Americans who will understand this number. The poverty line is $60,000 a year. Let me say that clearly. The poverty line is $60,000 a year, which means if you have a job making less than $60,000 a year, it's probably a better financial situation for you to be unemployed and living off of the government tit. Do you see like what is going on? This is what happens in these liberal states. They're controlling the growth. They control it through their taxation and confiscatory policies that take government's money or businesses' money and act like it's theirs. These are the things that keep happening. And we're not stupid. We know that if we continue along the right line, that we will benefit at a slower rate, but we're still going to benefit. But the country as a whole will get to a place where maybe we can leave these fucking liberal hellholes and move over to somewhere like, I don't know, Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Oklahoma, somewhere where it's a better living condition for us as a person. And that will also change the unemployment rates. But you're right on job growth. If we have this situation we currently have, which will get fixed, which will get a better balance. But that's why you see that right now, the highest level in the history of our country of wage increases is occurring right now. Why? Because I just told you, 2.7% unemployment rate. They need every fucking employee. They can't afford to fire you. They can't afford to get rid of you. They have to keep you. So when the guy across the street says, fuck, I need an employee, but I can't find him, I'm going to pay 5% more, guess where you're going? You're going across the street. So what do? You go to your boss and say, hey, Joey across the street's going to pay me $5 more. I'll give you my 2 weeks notice. And then your boss says, no. I can't afford to lose you. I'll match his wage. You see how that happens? The employee is now in demand. The employee, and when we wake up to that, when we realize that, things will get better. But right now, 3% wage increase across the whole country. That's right. I said it. 3% wage increase. It's a huge number. That's what's currently the trend right now in America. That is the biggest number, the biggest shift in our history. Having said all of that, before we get to the hammering, I didn't really address the McCabe stuff, and I have breaking news that's coming to me right now through Director Mike, and it's big. It's part of what I've said. It's part of what we've been talking about, and I really need to get there. And this is why it's extremely important, is that remember what I've been saying about Saudi Arabia. Remember what I said about the importance of the relationship between Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump, and Benjamin Netanyahu, how we were fixing the world, how we were in the middle of a Muslim reformation, how the deep state worldwide is going fucking down. Well, this comes directly from the Department of Defense sourcing. That's the best I can tell you right now, but I'm getting this from my friend that we all have shown that he's right all the time. So listen up. This is big news, and this is breaking news, and I don't know if you'll find it anywhere else because I'm busy doing a show, so I'm not on Twitter. Saudi Arabia has requested Israeli bombers and fighters join them at their air bases. We now have a second battle group underway headed to the Persian Gulf. You heard me right. Israeli fighters are being welcomed into Saudi Arabia to go kick some fucking ass. And because these guys just tried to attack the oil fields in Saudi Arabia, and that's Iran. We already have told you. We already have been talking about what's been going on. People were asking all over the place yesterday about what they've been hearing, what they've been saying. Why was there a meeting at the Pentagon? Well, I think we just found out, because think about what's going down, people. Jewish fighters are welcome in the Middle East. Just think about that. We told you how big a deal this was. We told you you're watching the reformation of the Muslim world, and now you're about to see some major dividends.
Okay, there you go. I really don't know what to say to that. I can rain on your parade a little bit and say It wouldn't be the first time in the last few years, because I think it was like in 2017 that Saudi Arabia requested Israeli fighters join them to prevent a coup.
Not on their,
I don't know the details about that, but
not on their soil.
Sorry?
That's the big. Not on their soil. That's one of the key differences here. Is that what they wanted the Israelis to do was to help them and fly sorties out of their country, right? They want, but now they're inviting them onto their air bases.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, it says, Israel. This is from 2017. Israel deployed 18 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia to prevent a coup.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It might not have been on Saudi Arabian soil. Not sure.
Right.
So we'll keep watching that. All right, James. I think we've had enough fun. Let's get to the serious stuff. For the hammering.
Stop the hammering.
In the lead up to the 2020 election, James, there's one question on the lips of Don Lemon. And no, it's not, are you a racist? It's, are you going to impeach Donald Trump or not? So he invited one of the Democratic crew onto his show to ask him this very poignant question, which many people say is irrelevant, but not Don Lemon, because he goes after the real issues when it counts.
The House Judiciary Committee gearing up.
Oh, pardon me. It would be remiss of me, wouldn't it, if we didn't have a little bit of this. Oh, no, there's no audio.
There's no audio. Come on.
Lemon. There he is. It just started to play. Spurging out on
Do it again.
Very pretty and the lemon flowery sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat. Lemon tree very pretty and the lemon flowery sweet, but the fruit of the poor lemon is impossible to eat.
For a critical vote tomorrow that will set the rules for its impeachment inquiry. Not all House Democrats are on the same page about whether to call it a full impeachment.
So what the Democrats are going to do is have a vote on the rules of the inquiry about whether or not they should impeach. Now, we've said this on this show for, 12 months. The whole aim of these investigations being run by the Democrats in the House, and like this isn't even a partisan thing for me, because if the other party was in power, I would be advising them to do the exact same thing if they had this kind of ammunition, which is shitty, but it's better than nothing. So I would probably advise them to do the exact same thing, just have these investigations, because the aim of the investigation and the constant talk about impeachment is not impeachment. The aim of the investigation is not to find anything. Like they're legitimately not looking for something because they know it's not there. The whole aim of the investigation and the talk about impeachment is the investigation and the talk about impeachment. They want that rolling into the election cycle of 2020 so they can cut those little campaign commercials together and say, James, Donald Trump is currently being investigated by six House investigations are currently undergoing on Donald Trump. The House is even discussing whether or not Donald Trump should be impeached before the election. Can you trust a man like Donald Trump? Vote Democrats, right?
There you go.
That's the whole point of this.
That is.
It's cynical, but it's true.
Yep.
Investigation. So let's discuss now. Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin is here. He sits on the House Judiciary Committee.
Look at this guy.
Thank you, sir.
Look at this guy.
I've done a couple of videos starring Jamie Raskin. He's one of my personal favorites. James, if you're and audience, if you're not aware of Jamie Raskin is the guy who 6 months ago came out and said, after 2 days after the Project Veritas videos came out, with the Google executives saying that they're targeting Donald Trump supporters and the Twitter executives saying that they look for ways to get Trump supporters off the internet, he is the guy who came out and said there is no evidence for bias against conservatives and it's all a right-wing fantasy. Okay? This is the guy. There's no evidence. It's a right-wing conspiracy theory and a right-wing fantasy.
I appreciate you joining us. You say we're in an impeachment inquiry now. Why the hesitation by some of your colleagues to just even call?
Now, he says we're in an impeachment inquiry now, but on the books it says we're having a vote to discuss the terms of the impeachment inquiry. Should we have one? Do you see how all of the phrases and all of the definitions are just being melded together? It's for you. Mm-hmm. It's for you out there in the audience. He knows the semantics. He knows that it's not an impeachment inquiry, but he wants you to think it's an impeachment inquiry, so you think that Donald Trump is going to be impeached. That's right. Because he's so corrupt, because of all the investigations, even though it's so far, even if I dare say it, James, a Democratic conspiracy theory. It's left-wing fantasy, okay?
Call it that.
Well, the Constitution doesn't really define the term, so it means different things to different people. Some people are saying investigation, some are saying...
What?
It's a free hit. Let me underarm lob one over home plate for you, James.
The impeachment is specifically outlined in writing in the Constitution. Specifically.
No.
It actually requires the amount of votes even. It tells you 2/3 must vote. 2/3. It's literally spelled completely out. And it's literally says for high crimes and misdemeanors, meaning he must have committed a crime, which means he gets due process, you dipshits.
No. I'm afraid I'm going to have to push back on that, James, because nobody knows the Constitution like Mr. Raskin and the Democrat Party. So what I think you'll find is, whilst you might think that impeachment is clearly outlined and defined in the Constitution, the real meaning is hidden and convoluted and complex. You see, you know, people like to talk about this thing called impeachment. And for some people, impeachment means, eating a peach pie on the porch. And for some people, impeachment means having an inquiry about the kind of impeachment things you might talk about if you were ever going to go down the road of impeachment. But here, it's much more nuanced. It's much more complex. We're just talking about it. I'm not saying we're going to impeach him. I'm just saying we're going to impeach him. All right? Because nobody really knows what this impeachment hoo-ha really means.
Corey, it's very clear that we're looking at possible high crimes and misdemeanors of the president. There are not articles of impeachment that have been written up. So,
all right. This guy is this guy supposed to be a lawyer? Oh no, I don't know if he's a lawyer or not, but he's a dumbass. Let's really go back to this. So let me explain this in layman's terms for you. Impeachment, articles of impeachment. What are articles of impeachment? Articles of impeachment are essentially what? An indictment. That's right. You heard it correctly. Articles of impeachment are the political process of the politicians writing an indictment over the president or whoever else they're impeaching. And then you have a trial. That trial occurs in the Senate. The Senate is supposed to be the representatives of the states, so that the representative of the states of every state are represented during that trial as the jury to decide whether or not there was an actual crime committed. Because if there wasn't, then all of the shit goes away. These people are trying to obfuscate, spin, and blow smoke so far up the American people's ass that they don't understand
Correct.
what the hell they're saying.
Correct. Articles of impeachment, there's a trial. That's one way of looking at it. But see, it means different things to different people, James. For me, impeachment means watching Jerry Nadler waddle up to the microphone every 2 or 3 days and say, well, we're not promising any kind of impeachment, but we're definitely potentially looking at things that may lead to some kind of discussion of impeachment in the future, at least if we have a vote about the kind of things that we want to discuss about impeachment. That's what impeachment really means.
we're not set to vote on anything. We're still in an active investigative mode. And there are a lot of...
Now, bear in mind, Don Lemon opened this interview by saying there is going to be a vote tomorrow. And this guy, we're not even 60 seconds into the clip. He's saying, we're not voting on anything. Like, even look at Don Lemon. Even he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me now?" Like, look at it. Look at the look on his face. Are you serious, man?
Things that we can do, even short of impeachment, in the meantime, to counter the lawlessness of this White House.
See, but this is the point. There's so many things that we can do short of impeachment to counter the lawlessness of this White House. Well, hang on. If the White House is lawless, then you impeach, right? Like, but they don't want to impeach. That's the thing. If you're a Democrat voter out there and you still think that your party wants to impeach Donald Trump, you must have a brain made out of crude oil. Like, your brain must be made of custard. Your party does not want to impeach Donald Trump. They want you to think that they want to impeach Donald Trump because that's what you want. And if you want to impeach Donald Trump, then you're going to be motivated to vote when they don't impeach him. Because the message is going to be, you need to impeach Donald Trump at the ballot box. That's the only way you can do it because he's so unjust and he's so corrupt, he's not even going to let us impeach him. That's the bullshit that they're going to sell you. That is exactly the bullshit that they're going to try and sell. Oh, he stood in the way of investigations. He obstructed justice. So we would have all of the information to impeach it if it wasn't for Donald Trump and his corrupt White House, right? They can't move for impeachment because it's so unpopular with the American population. Even Democrats.
70%.
70%. Yep, 70, 80%, whatever it is. It's more than 51. Put it that way. And it's a hell of a lot more than 51. So all of those purple districts that they won in 2018 in the midterms will go bye-bye. Bye-bye to the Republicans.
Thank you, Democrats.
Bye-bye. No more Democrats. Yep, no more Democrats. If they move for impeachment, the House is gone to the Republican Party. Raskin knows it, but he knows that you're too dumb to know it.
I can speak for just this is a question that I get on the street, and I think it's a fair one for you because I can't really answer it.
When is Don Lemon ever on the street?
They say,
I would have thought the question that Don Lemon gets on the street is, excuse me, who are you?
are Democrats going to impeach the guy or not? What's with this? Well, we're investigating. We're trying to figure out, are you going to do it or not? I think that's what most people want to know. Whether they agree with it, should be.
He can't say yes because they're not going to do it, so he'll be a liar. And he can't say no because he wants his supporters to think that it's yes, right?
Impeached or not, are you going to do it or not?
Listen to the answer.
It seems like another unfortunate consequence of the Trump administration is that everybody has
I cut it off too early. He is going to blame Donald Trump. He's going to blame Donald Trump for the American population not knowing whether or not they should impeach Donald Trump. Right? Bear in mind, he just contradicted Don Lemon within 60 seconds of his own interview. All right?
Are you going to do it or not?
It seems like another unfortunate consequence of the Trump administration is that everybody has a Trump-style attention span right now. That's really not how the Constitution works. It's not like an up or down, yes or no plebiscite, and then it's all over. This is a process where we're really...
It's a process, James. We're working through a process. There's a process that needs to take place here.
Investigating what is taking place.
We're still investigating. Didn't you know? We're still investigating stuff over here?
There are complicated things going on here that are simple in fact, okay? The president has converted the presidency into an
complicated, simple things.
Instrument of self-enrichment. In Scotland and Ireland,
now he's trying to do emoluments.
Tax.
Yeah, now we're moving on to 2-day-old news.
Yeah.
2-day-old news, all right, about Ireland.
Dollars to aid his business enterprises. He's pocketing money from foreign governments all over the world.
He's pocketing money from foreign governments all over the world, James.
Yes. Not like Jeremy Raskin. I bet if you look in his bank account, it's squeaky clean.
Squeaky clean. Hey, he earns a janitor's wage, James.
These people are so
in
jealous.
Violation of the foreign emoluments clause, but it's going to be complicated.
Congressman, with all due respect, I understand that, as you said, as you're going.
See, because here's the thing. It's about the allegations.
Yep.
He's not making allegations to get to some underlying truth. He's making the point of the allegation is the allegation. The point of the smear is the smear. The point of the investigation is the investigation. The point about the talk of impeachment is the talk of impeachment. It really is that cynical. It is so shallow and so transparent. You'd have to be blind to miss it.
It's complicated. So the question is,
for you. It's too complex for you.
Are you going to do it or not? And how do you answer the average person who doesn't have time to sit there and say, well, it's nuanced. No. Are you going to do it or not?
You got to give Don Lemon
our Constitution was written in the 18th century where they were a little more reflective and a little more meditative about stuff. So
even Don Lemon's laughing at him.
That's what I'm saying. You got to give Don Lemon a little bit of credit. As much as we rip the shit out of this lefty vigilante of Don Lemon, At least he's trying to call this guy to the carpet. Just give me a fucking answer. Yes or no. Up or down. Just tell me what the fuck you're going to do. We don't care about the nuance. I'll spin the nuance for you. Just tell me yes or no.
It's a great answer, isn't it? Is it yes or no? Well, the Constitution was written in the 18th century. And I think that's a great place to wrap up the hammering. And I can't help but wonder, James, if only Joe Biden was there to answer this question, what might it sound like? Are you going to impeach Donald Trump or not? Well, you see, back in my day when we wrote the Constitution in the 18th century, we all used to put primate in our hair. And, of course, back in those days, I was guarding the 3-meter diving tower, which was very popular at the time. And I was accosted once by a young Negro gentleman, but everybody used to call him Corn Pop. Now, Corn Pop used to have a gang of razor thugs that he would march around at particular times. And, of course, back then I was guarding the 3-meter diving board, which was just over there. Of course, back in those days, we used to listen to the record player. We didn't have the fancy televisions and the iPods like you children have today. We had to find other ways to amuse ourselves, and that's why we're not really knowing whether or not we're going to impeach Donald Trump.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
A joke. I do not believe this is happening. I'm literally about to fucking kill myself, and I'm not kidding. You better fucking fix this shit right now. I literally am gonna die. I need an ambulance. I can't believe.
Stop the hammering.
And there you have it, folks. We like to end on a high note. That is our high note. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Real Person PLTCS. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at TAV Show, and you can find all our prior episodes on TAVshow.com. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week. Aloha.
Do you remember when big tech called themselves the free speech platform and used slogans like "Don't be evil"? Fast forward a decade, and suddenly those platforms we loved for years have changed, and the promises they made at the start no longer apply. So what happened? How did we get here? Over the last decade, these companies have quietly moved their corporate headquarters outside the US to EU tax havens. The big change? Well, big tech is now governed under UN law. In simple terms, US free speech laws no longer apply to these platforms. What started as free speech for all is now regulated speech to some. We believe you, the people, not big tech, are the best judge of what you want to watch, read, and hear. We are content creators. We understand that a creator's ability to make a living should not be infringed upon. We created Zap Media with you in mind, a free market, next-gen media platform that believes in protecting your speech rights and, equally as important, your privacy, including IP theft and data mining. By removing the threat of censorship and freeing the market, content creators have a home base to build their platforms and grow their brands. The Zap Media community are brand ambassadors, coalescing behind publishers, subscribers, and advertisers alike. This is the beginning of the next big wave in digital media. With an estimated 225 million video-on-demand users expected by 2022, Zap is poised with your help to revolutionize the marketplace as we know it. We look forward to partnering with you.